Good evening, morning, afternoon, everyone. My name is Amir Ballard. I currently teach 10th grade history at a high performing charter school in the city of Newark, New Jersey. I've been with this particular charter organization for 15 years. Started in sixth grade. Started as a dean of students actually, then transitioned to sixth grade history, and I've been teaching high school history now for the last 4 years. And I'm excited because next year I'm actually transitioning to teaching an African American history course, which is going to be the first that our organization has been able to offer. And so I'm really excited. I'm on the part of the planning team and really getting it off the ground. So I'm really excited about that. And I've been in education for, as I said, 15 years. My wife is also in education. She's been in for almost 20 now. So we're a family of educators.
That's beautiful. I didn't realize she's been in 20 years. That's
Yeah.
go Tanya. Go Miss Brown. So one of the things that we always want to start with this, I think it's a good place to start and begin and add to, is to ask you March of well, for me it was March. Can you tell us from your perspective and what you remember? What do you remember about the moment last year? Like, what was your date? We really haven't come up with the name of that date yet, but what was that moment of the moment of demarcation for you? And tell us a little bit about what you remember from that particular moment.
So our date was Friday, March 13th, 2020. Our principal had actually started gathering students by grade level into the gym to start telling them about Google Docs and about Zoom and passing out Chromebooks. So our kids were all going to go home with Chromebooks. So we had seen the writing on the wall, and I think we were trying to hold out, but I think educators saw what the governor was going to do in New Jersey. And so March 13th, that was the day. And I remember my colleague who I was sharing a room with at the time, we were sort of thinking about, well, how long is it going to be? Is it going to be a week? Is it going to be a couple of weeks? And, I looked at my office, at my desk, I said, I'm going to take everything that I know I'm not going to need to come back and get it. Right. So, it wasn't a whole lot. I left my entire library at school of about maybe 30, 40 books that I keep on, on my bookshelf. So I'm gonna leave those here, but I'm going to take, all the things that I know that I'm not, that I know that I need to have them with me. And so that was really it. We were still really all up in the air, not sure what was going to happen. Not prepared for all the, and obviously no were prepared, but that was really what I did at the time.
Okay. And then obviously, you were obviously out for the rest of the.
Yeah, then we were out. We were remote teaching so we started remote teaching maybe 3 days later. So it was that Friday, and then we had maybe 2 or 3 days off to sort of get teachers acclimated to what we're going to do. And then I feel like in that next week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, we started with our first classes, trying to hit the ground running, trying to create as much a sense of normalcy online as we could. And I think there was an assumption early on that we'd be able to replicate exactly what we did in class online, even from a time point of view. Class is going to be the exact same time, exact same length, so you should be able to cover the same material. And I think a lot of teachers realize early on that is not going to happen, right? That time does something different on Zoom with kids, and so the time you thought you had, you don't have. It takes kids, a good 5 minutes to get into class, and we had systems like the Do Now when kids would come in, and for the history department, our chairperson realized pretty early on that the function of that doesn't really transfer to Zoom and online. And so we sort of scrapped that, and we were always sort of going back and trying to not reinvent the wheel, but create something that was sustainable, that could become a routine for students and for teachers to make the transition a bit more seamless. And so we eventually got to something that, we began to use and refine, since probably I would say, probably like April or May, we started sort of figuring it out, and then really got a good handle on it as we started this school year.
So basically, in a nutshell, if you were to be able to go back in time and use that machine from the Avengers and go back and
Mhm.
see Amir as that moment, Mr. Ballard, not even Amir. See Mr. Ballard,
Mhm.
that moment as you were leaving school and trying to figure out everything that has happened, and you're allowed to think about everything. What would you tell yourself? Like, what would your words be to you as you looked at your desk, looked at your life extension and everything else? What would you want yourself to know almost a year and a couple months ago?
Yeah. Again, another great question that, when you shared it with me beforehand, I was like, man, that's what would I say? I think so. On a personal note, on a personal level, I would say to myself, you have more time than you think.
Mhm.
You're gonna have these pockets of time that you need to be productive with. Well, one of my own personal philosophies is that time is the only commodity you don't get more of. Right? It's the only thing that once you use it, you don't get it back. I've told students, when I was disciplining a group of students, a group of eighth graders, I said, I would much rather you waste my money than waste my time. I can get more money back. I can't get more time. And one thing I think has happened, and I think a lot of us are realizing it as we look back, is that I was not as efficient with the time that I had during this pandemic, right? Like moments to sort of learn new things, pick up new skills. It was such a shock to all of our systems. I think, we were all walking around in a fog and trying to figure out how long is this going to be and what can I do? When can I go out? Where can I go? And when you feel sort of locked in, and that you can't sort of move freely, you don't know what to do with your time. And I really feel like, on a personal note, I just didn't make use of the time that I had to be able to pick up new things. I'm a big proponent of YouTube Universe, right? YouTube University, rather. Where go on YouTube and learn something new, right? There's some things that I want to, learn how to do, personally, right? That may have nothing to do with school, and I didn't make time. I didn't use my time well. And so that would really be one of the things. And then I think the other thing would be from an educating point of view is to go back and look at my lessons and find out how I can make each one a little more interactive and um, a little more conducive to being remote, right? I tend to I've begun integrating more video as a starting point for my students, because my students are not on the AP track for whatever that means. But how to integrate video as a way of helping deliver information, right? And making sure that multiple lessons are doing that. And then there's also space for students to respond, space to have some engagement, maybe even have some discourse. And then creating a clear vision in my own head about what I want my class to feel like. Like, what do I want a student in my class to feel like, on a daily basis, and really thinking about that. Because, they're sitting on, in front of this machine just like I am. And so how can we make this whole process a little more engaging? So I think those are some of the things I would definitely want to go back and tell myself to, think about that. How you can make the class more interesting, what can you learn personally? And how coming out of this, you can not be the same person who went into it.
Awesome.